Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here with Fireside Chats as we're sitting here talking about WWE Survivor Series 2017. This is honestly was the show that I was really fired up for. I thought this was going to be a really good pay-per-view when it was first announced, Raw versus SmackDown. I wasn't that high on Jinder Mahal versus Brock Lesnar. But as everybody has seen, we have had a really big 2 days in WWE. AJ Styles becomes your WWE champion. We see, John Cena named to Team SmackDown. And this pay-per-view has really got a complete 180. I cannot remember a pay-per-view having this many changes in it after basically being booked and then been shown to the public. Every year, there's always those rumors about WrestleMania, about what the WrestleMania main event is going to be. And from my memory, the WrestleMania main event that was sort of rumored to be out there has never really been the real WrestleMania main event to happen. But a pay-per-view to have this many changes to the main event as well as the co-main event would probably have to be WrestleMania 8. And that's sort of been rumored to just been an angle, the way that it was all supposed to be played out. But as a kid, I can remember Hulk Hogan being named the number one contender to go after Ric Flair's championship back in 1992. Them having a sort of a press conference for it being on television, it sort of being a real big deal. And then Saturday night's main event comes when Psycho Sid teams with Hulk Hogan, and Sid walks out on Hogan, and Hogan ends up getting his butt kicked. And next thing you know, WrestleMania 8 has been changed. Macho Man Randy Savage is your new number one contender. Hulk Hogan is challenging Psycho Sid in what is now going to be his retirement match. That is what comes to mind when I think of big changes to pay-per-views. I think over the history of time, this is always going to be a pay-per-view that really sort of has a lot of mystique around it because of the changes that happen, and a lot of people are going to wonder if this is Vince basically freaking out to low numbers with low television ratings over the last week with Halloween and other things. If people are thinking that WWE is stale, if he is answering to the whole Chris Jericho jumping the New Japan Pro Wrestling news that broke this week. What happened to really make this shakeup? We know that it's basically 2 weeks in the works because the announcement of AJ Styles versus Jinder Mahal was planned last Tuesday. They had a week to sit there, and then they actually went through with their plans. AJ Styles becomes the champion. That's a big main event for them to have of AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar. This is the dream match. Both of these guys, former New Japan champions. Both of these guys, two of the biggest names in WWE. Definitely, when I've thought about Brock Lesnar matches and what is left for him in WWE, AJ Styles is the guy that I always thought of. But in the back of my mind, I always said that match will probably never happen. And boom, here it is at the Survivor Series. When we look at the rest of the card that's going to be going down, this is a really good show with some really good, interesting matches. Team SmackDown versus Team Raw. When basically it was sort of rumored that Kurt Angle, who had just wrestled at TLC before announcing Raw versus SmackDown, people thought that, Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon, people even thought that Daniel Bryan was going to wrestle in this. And I thought there was no way in the world. I thought that after Hell in the Cell, Shane was done being, a pro wrestler. I thought that TLC was a one-time appearance for Kurt Angle. Both of these guys make the show. We don't get to see Daniel Bryan. I honestly can say that I don't think Daniel Bryan's ever going to wrestle again. Team Raw is a very interesting team, and the first person that comes to mind is going to be because of Jason Jordan. He is on his first year in the WWE's main roster system. He spent some time on SmackDown before jumping over to Monday Night Raw. Now he's been named as Kurt Angle's son. But then you got three real, big names. You've got Braun Strowman, you've got Finn Balor, you've got Samoa Joe. All of these guys have been in big matches for Raw on pay-per-view. They've main evented Raw. All real big names. But then when you look over at Team SmackDown, they might as well be called like Team Unity. I mean, the way they built this team with Rude, Orton, Nakamura, and Cena teaming up, you don't really have the problems that you have over on Team Raw. Just on Raw this week, We've had Joe and Balor beating each other up before being named to the team. We've got Braun Strowman, who's beaten everyone up, babyface or heel, just to prove how big of a monster he is. This is going to be a very entertaining match. The women's match, you've got Alicia Fox and Becky Lynch captaining their teams. When you look at Team Raw, Asuka is the biggest exclamation point on this team. I really thought that she would be left off of the Survivor Series teams because of the fact that she is so new to the roster. We've never seen her lose before. If you go back throughout the history of time and past Survivor Series, whether if it's been like how to eliminate Undertaker, how to eliminate Earthquake, Andre the Giant, guys that never lose on television, let alone pay-per-views. There's a way to get them out. You use the disqualification. You can always disqualify her for kicking too much ass. You could have where Asuka gets counted out. Lots of things that could happen from this. But when you look at these teams, really, really good teams built by Raw and SmackDown, not using the champions in those. Big changes came to the championship match. I was really in love with the Shield. Dean Ambrose, as well as Seth Rollins teaming up against the Usos. As far as it comes to dream tag team matches, that probably was the biggest dream tag team match using guys in WWE at the time. Cesaro and Sheamus going up against the Usos, that's a match that's still going to deliver and be a really good one. Alexa Bliss versus Natalya. When I was originally talking about this pay-per-view when it was first announced, I believe 2 weeks ago, I said that there would be changes, and I thought that the champions that were the champions at the time named in these matches would not be the champions come Survivor Series. In my mind, I thought Natalya was going to be the one that got sort of pushed out of this match, but here she is, still going strong. I think there's going to be a little bit to come in this match. We'll see. Most interesting match to me was going to be The Miz versus Baron Corbin. A lot of people really shitting on this match, not thinking that it's going to be much, but I think that this really could be a good one, and not to fall asleep on this match. I think that The Miz has been, delivering great promos as well as great matches all the way through, and I think that people who crap on Baron Corbin are doing it just for the fact that they don't really know enough about this guy. Guy really can deliver. It's going to be a big name in the business someday. This show gets polished out with a 205 Live Cruiserweight match. This one's going to be Enzo going up against Kalisto. This is going to be a rematch. Everyone can remember Kalisto won the championship on Raw last month, and that was sort of a last-minute change as well. Enzo ended up getting the title back. This is probably the one video that I'll skip in the full show preview because I don't watch 205 Live. I let alone don't watch the Cruiserweights on Monday Night Raw. I can at least tell you the truth. I don't know enough about this, but I think that Enzo's going to be getting the win here. Just counting down the days. I thought that Sin Cara already was announced to be a part of the Cruiserweights on 205 Live when 205 Live first got named. But he's found his way back to the main roster. Would not be surprised if Sin Cara would be the next guy moved over, and Sin Cara be the guy challenging Enzo for the title. So, looks like a really good show. We'll talk about all the matches except for that 205 Live Cruiserweight match, and get back at you down the road.